Okay, then here is the video on how I created this four colored or five colored, whatever you prefer, Cloverleaf. Uh, I will be going through a fair bit of first of some of the settings before I'm really gonna be going and talking about the Cloverleaf itself, because we first have to understand the concept of some of the settings. So we'll go into that, and so I'm going to close out of that window, and this is the Cloverleaf how I created it. It looks all confusing, but once you start peeling it apart, we will be going through that in a little while. Then I'll show you how I created some of the parts and pieces. So first what I want to do is we first want to go through a little bit of the settings so that you get to understand the settings, because if you don't understand the settings, then you will not be as successful. So what I did here is I created the red ones that are just some straight stitches, just a single stitch. The reason why I got that, so you will be seeing that on the simulator to get the understanding for some of the settings. So here in the center, the blue ones, those are all created satin stitches, and the width of them is about 6 mil wide on each. Let's see. Yeah. So now I will go and apply some of the settings to each one, and then we will go and look at it in the simulator, and then we can see all the differences between all the different ones. So on the first one, I applied the params to the red ones already. So that will be just a running stitch. So now I'm going through the satin stitches, and we'll go take each individually. And the first one, we're gonna go ink stitch params, and we will not go and make any differences in the settings. So we just use this as a regular satin column, and we go apply and quit. And I'm not using any I didn't use any undersewing for the Cloverleaf. Sometimes it will take away from the effect. Sometimes what can be done is you can go and use a certain color for underlay. It really depends a little bit on what kind of effect you want and what is going to be showing through. But so that is some personal preferences, and you need to play around a little bit and do a few tests and find out for yourself what kind of settings do you really want. So now the second one, we're gonna go extension, ink stitch, and we're gonna go to the params. And the main screen, what pops up, these settings, we'll leave them the same, but now we're gonna go and scroll down, and here is a lot of information. And here we go on this one, we are gonna change this value, and we're gonna set here a percentage. I'm gonna go and set a fairly high percentage so that we can see the difference as good as possible. So I'm changing this to a 30%. And there you can see we getting the lines going differently. And I will go and apply and quit. So here, random percentage of satin width increase, and we go apply and quit. Now we go to the third one. Now we go extension, ink stitch, params. We're gonna go basically to the same section of settings. Now we go random percentage of satin width decrease, and I'll make that a 30% value, or a 30% value, and we can see that also in the simulator here. And we go apply and quit. So number 1 regular, number 2 is out, number 3 is in, and now number 4, now it starts becoming more interesting. And we go to the extension, ink stitch, params, and now we're going to the same setting, the random percentage of satin width increase. So I'm gonna use here a little bit different values, and then you can see what is gonna start happening. I'm gonna go here 20, then I go and use the space bar, and I'll enter a value of 60. And now we will go and apply and quit. I have to keep a kind of track of what I'm doing and what kind of settings I'm setting here, so I'm writing down here a few on my piece of paper. 20 and 60. So we're gonna apply that to this one. Now we're gonna go to this one, the number 5th. We go extension, ink stitch, params. So we scroll down to that same section again, and here we do random percentage of satin width decrease, and there we go and put a 20, and then the space bar, and then 60. And there you can see, like, the one setting applies to the one side, and the other value applies to the opposite side. So then we go and apply and quit. So now we go to number 6, and now we're gonna go extension, ink stitch, params again, and we scroll down to the same settings there again. Now what we're gonna do is an increase. Let's go there 20, and space bar 60, and now we can go here. Okay, I better write this down. And now we're gonna go 60, space bar 20, enter. And there we can see we getting a way different zigzag or satin stitch going on again. So now we go and apply and quit. And now we're gonna go to the last one. Extension, ink stitch, params. And I'm gonna go to that same setting there again. And let's use the same values as what I used in the previous one, and that is 20 spacebar 60, and we go here 60 spacebar 20, and there you can see we go apply and quit. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go and select all of these items, and we're gonna go to the simulator, ink stitch, visualize and export, go to the simulator, and I hope it works because I was having issues with it this morning that it didn't want to work. I had to restart the whole system. So there you can see it is stitching out those running stitches right now. And I'll speed it up a little bit. So and the reason why I was having these let me see here. So these running stitches I was having here, so that you can see that they were on the edge of where the satin stitch line was. So, and here, if we're drawing a straight line, maybe I can use a different line tool here. No, that is not. Yeah, it's working. Here you can see I'm drawing a straight line, and from this running stitch to that running stitch, and we can see that only the stitching from the setting what we applied is applied toward the outside of our satin rail, and the same here on this side. Also, the satin is extended outward on the side. And what we used here a value of 30. So if this satin is 6 millimeters wide, so 30%, that would roughly be 2 millimeters of the width. So this, the extended stitch there would be about a space of 2 mil in between. So, and then the next one here, as I'm drawing a line straight across, you can see there is no stitching outside our satin column we created, because what did we do here? On this one we used the value of 30, just a single value of 30. So the value is applied to both sides. So if we're taking a line on the inner stitches, as you can see, that is the furthest inward stitch line. That should be, and the same on this side. I'm not really accurate, but it's just for reference. So we used here on the single value decrease of 30, so the distance from the outside one to the inner stitching, that is roughly 30% of the total width of the satin. So that is a single value entered into the decrease. So now we're going to the next one. Now I'm drawing a line here again, and I'm drawing a line here, and now you can see on this one we entered a value of 20 and a value of 60. So the value of 20, so that is 20% of the width of the satin column, is randomly extended on this side. So the outer stitching, what has been applied here, that is 20%. The distance between these two lines would be 20% of the total satin column width. And on this side, as you can see, that width is quite a bit wider, and that is the second value we entered, and that was a 60 value. So this is 60% of the width of the satin column. And as you can see too, this was these values were only applied on the increase value. So now here we go basically the same thing. We had the same settings, but here the settings, they were applied on the decrease value. So we're getting all the stitching is narrower than the satin column. Now we go to the next one. I'll just move this a little bit out of the way, so that this way you can see my my mouse button clicks or keyboard clicks. So I'm gonna draw here another line. Here you can see, here we entered on this one, let's see, this was number 6. We entered a value on the in and a value on the out. And we did a 20 and a 60. So the decrease was 20%. And on the one side, and 60% on the opposite side. But the decrease was 60% on this side and 20% on this side. So now we can see we are extending on the side and we are decreasing on one side. But we can also, I didn't do that, I will go and do one more in a minute, because we can also apply it to only one side. So, and then here, the last one, I did the same values, but I wanted to show that, hey, wherever the satin is really narrow, there also the stitching will be really narrow. As you can see here on this top section, let's see, yeah, here on the top section I had only a width of about 3 mil, so these values, they are not as well, the values are still the same, but we can see the stitching is not extending as far inward or outward because of the width of the satin. While here I have the full width of the satin, and you can see the distances seem to be all way bigger. So these settings, they become all of big value on how your results are gonna be and how successful you're gonna be. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna delete all my lines here, and I'm gonna go close out of this window, and then I'll show I'll go to this first one for a moment, and we go to the extension ink stitch params once more, and now we will go and apply a setting to only one side. And also where we have to keep an eye on is which direction is our satin column created, on which value do I have to enter first. So there I leave the 0, then I use a space bar, and I can go, I'm just punching in a value. There you can see the effect is only applied to one side of the satin. If I want to have it on the other side, then what I would have to do is set a value, then press the space bar and enter a 0. Then we apply the setting to the opposite side. And so yeah, and that is the same here with the decrease. Also you can set 0 and 60. Then you can see you're getting a whole different, I did not use the space bar, so you have to be conscious pressing the space bar between the values, and there you can see that is a decrease of 60%, and the top one is an increase of 60%. So those are the main values where you're gonna be playing with, and you can anywhere. I don't even know how far, how big a values. I would imagine you can go even 120%. There you can see, yeah, you can have way different effects. So these values really need to be played with. You can also, if your satin length would become too long, you can also change your spacing, okay, you can go and set a maximum stitch length. So you can go and say I want to have my stitches not longer than 6 mil. Then you can enter your maximum stitch length over here also. Also, where you can play with, that is your zigzag spacing, and that is the density. So if we're changing this value, that will also give a different look on how many threads are gonna be showing over top. So this can be used, you can use it over top of a fill, you can use satin over top of satin. There are many ways that you can use it. So now I'm gonna go to the clover for a few minutes and show you on how I created the clover. I'm gonna drag that one out of the way. and I hope I can make this fairly clear. What I'm gonna, oh, I should move that one a little bit out of the way. So I'm gonna go here to, so I named every satin. I did rename the object, so I know the number ones, that was one color, the number twos are one color, the number threes are one color, the number fours are one color, and then the number fives. So each person has his own way of organizing. Each person has his own way of organizing. You can put them in different layers. You can put them in groups. So there are many options. But I want to go here from the number 2 to the number here to the top. Shift. And I'm gonna go and turn the visibility off on them. So on the first one I started with I just created this one, the outer one. Then what I did, I should go, I didn't optimize it yet, I should go and run some running stitches and create that they would also in one pass. On this outer one, what I did is I only applied the setting for on the outside. So extension, ink stitch, params, and here you can see I created only a 10% decrease. So that was only for, and I applied it only it is a 10 space 0. So it is not, be careful that you don't see it as a 100. It is a 10 space 0. So that way you see a 10% decrease, and 10% decrease here in the center would be more than say a 10% here on the end. So that way you can play with it also. So that was the setting for the first one. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay only on this one leaf over here for a moment to keep everything as visible as possible. And so now we want to be careful on how we creating the next one, because as you can see, I'll give this one a different color, then it becomes better visible with which satin we are dealing with. So here the green one, that was the first one. Here this red one, or purple or pink or whatever you want to call it, burgundy. This red one, that was the second one I created, and as you can see I did a fair bit of a big overlap over top on the first one. And the reason for that is because if we are setting a decrease value at 60%, so 60% you're looking at, that is roughly maybe in 60% decrease, that could be up to this green line almost. So then you may get that some of the stitches that they will not be covering underneath. So then you're gonna get open spots. So you want to make sure that your stitching is created with proper overlap, depending on the values you are gonna be using. So now we're gonna go to the number 3. So that was the third one, what I put on top there. And there you can see again, I gave this one a lot of overlap. Also, where you want to be careful with is how far you are creating these satin stitches or the satin rails. As you can see, I got here some curve, but I have here also corners on what are coming in again, because I do not, if I don't want to have too much extension on the edges, then you can play with changing these nodes that they come in closer. There you can go narrow down an end, and you can, for that matter, increase the width over here, and that way you can make a fair bit of an adjustment. You want to make sure that depending on the values you are entering, that you get good coverage of your satins. And so now we're going to go to the number 4. And here, so yeah, I had made a few changes here with the satin. So that one probably was more. Oh, I got snapping is on. So yeah, the further you go with this one, and then depending on the values you're entering, if you're using only decrease values, then you really want to make sure that you're overlapping. If you only use increase values, then you can be closer to the edge. But then it depends also again on your satin, what is underneath, what kind of values you are using there. So there are many aspects what play a role in becoming really effective, that you're getting a good result. Let's see, that was our number 4, and now we're gonna go to our 5. So yeah, all of these in between, so the top one and the bottom one, I only applied the values to one side. And here too again, okay, I'm in the, make that one visible for a moment. So there too again, I only applied the value to one side. And here you can see too, I'll move this rail here for a moment, and I'll move rail rung. So I'm removing those end rungs for a moment, so you can see how I created these rails. I created one rail here, and I created this rail all the way up to the top here, just because of some of the that I can control good where the stitchings are, and that I can control good, because if I would stop this one, say over here on the bottom right beside that one, I would get a really long stitch here, and if I then apply a value, that stitch is gonna extend really far here where I would not want it. So that is why I'm having this one pretty close, and then with the rungs I can control my stitch angle also. So if if it turns out that the stitches are going too far to the outside, I can control the stitch angle by changing the angle of this rung. So that is basically how I went about. And okay, I should go and put this one back for a moment. Try to put it in place. So I hope this helps you. So like I did that on all 4 of them. Basically exactly the same way. And once you have this, you can also go and play with the stitching order. So you can have that you stitching first the top one, then the second one from the top, then stitch the bottom one, then the next one on top of the bottom, and stitch the center one last. So there are many options available. Also your density can play a role. So there's many options, but it takes a little bit of time to learn and play with it, do a few different settings, see how it looks in the simulator, and you may have to do a few stitch outs in order to become really successful with the layout. Okay, I can keep on talking, but I think this should cover most of the information of what you need. And otherwise, go and if you have questions, post it in the group, and we will see on how we can help you as good as possible. And here I'm just gonna go and show you how it's stitched out. I changed the colors here, but that doesn't really matter. It is just, oh, I must have made a mistake there with something. I don't know exactly what happened there, but this is just to show you the main principle on how it can be stitched out. So, and then what I did is from the last one, you can go and because this bottom one I use the same color as the stem and the center point. And so what I did is I created a running stitch for the stem. Maybe I should just, oh, oh no, that is that's not in this file. I have that in a different file. But what I did here is from the last one sewn, I created a running stitch coming down the stem, and then I started the stem from this end going down to the center, and then the next satin for the center circle was done all the way on top. So that was the last sewn. Okay, I hope this is enough information, and have fun creating. And Inkscape has got, and Inkstitch, they have so many opportunities to be creative. So use your imagination, and it is possible. Okay, thanks for watching and take care.